Well, hey guys, back on the realistic STA-64 receiver. Went ahead and restored it. Got it all working again. Well, what I've done, I had to buy some things from DigiKey. I probably put about $8 of parts in this thing. So it wasn't too bad. One reason I decided to restore it is I found a whole box of capacitors I tore out of a big screen projection television I brought home, and it had these nice Nichicon 105C lytics, so I put those in. These here I did have to buy from DigiKey. I didn't have the right values, but those 105C caps of larger size tend to be more expensive. They're not too bad individually, but when you have to buy a few of them, it gets expensive. So I entirely put new lytics in this power supply board, and when I measured the old ones, only two were bad, and it was this one and this one. Now this one was really cooked, and this one didn't look cooked, but it was, just measured very low. So we got all new caps in, all new components for the short circuit protection. In the other video I was mentioning how I couldn't find anything on the diode. Well, when I was probing around this amp, looky there, I found the same type of diode. And when I measured those, they had a normal diode drop, so I think they're just small signal type 1N4148 types. So that's what I used here. And then I wanted to test if this was working, so I injected a voltage on the input of the diode when it was disconnected from the amp, and when the voltage hit a certain level, it turned off the preamp. And then I did the calculation and found that the short circuit protection kicks in when 7 amps of current flows through the emitter resistor. And I guess that'd be about right. If you have a 4 ohm load cranked up high, you don't want to be kicking in the short circuit protection just yet. So yeah, I think that's a good choice. And this resistor was burnt as well, so that's been replaced. So yeah, a lot of parts went on the power supply board, a lot of parts went in the amplifier. Now those are working just fine. And if you remember from the other video, I was getting good FM, but no stereo. Well, that chip there is a PLL stereo multiplex decoder, a Sanyo chip right there. And I kind of looked online and found some information. This is not the schematic for this receiver. This is from a STA-62B, I believe, and it's similar but not the same. What I found out, by tracing the lines, I found out that this transistor controls when it kicks the stereo demodulator on or off, from stereo to mono. So what I did, I just took a wire and shorted this pin 11 to ground. Or no, I think it was one of the, I can't remember, it was one of these two pins. And when I shorted to ground, it forced the demodulator to be on no matter what. I mean, between stations, mono stations, it turned it on. And then I was able to, I tried adjusting these potentiometers, and that did it. I was getting kind of a distorted FM stereo sound, and when I tweaked this to the right point, it cleared up that noise, and the stereo works. So let's give a listen.
We deserve Texas Roadhouse.
achieve more and more money, more and more acclaim, more and more praise.
And I'm just using a short wire here, and it's picking up stereo just fine.
Leaving every single copper penny of it.
Oh yeah, I did have to change that bulb. I had a bulb and I put it in there, so that's good. AM seems okay. One thing though, it seems dead unless you pull this out.
The major point was nobody asked Roger Goodell when he came by about parking.
There's no problem letting them in to.
See, I was reading about, and for those that don't, Venezuelan, or he's Mexican, Mexican. Okay, he's pitcher for the Dodgers, 19-year-old lefty. Yeah, and he's the guy. What's your mind? In American society, what do you blame? And so, as you say, Greg, there's a contradiction.
This station here, 55 KRC or something like that, 550. It's like a 1,000 watt station, and it's about 50 miles away, so
and yet at the same time,
I'm picking that up okay. Probably do better with an external antenna, but you know, I'm not really a AM guy. It's just nothing but talk around here. So the radio board seems to be just fine. And with the lights, I went ahead and converted them over to LEDs. I figured, well, I'm not going to find a socket to replace that broken one. I'll just go ahead and convert it over to LEDs. It's less heat to build up in the cabinet, having all those lights on. So I went ahead and did that. I found a little full-wave bridge out of a CFL. It was a surface mount. I put a little capacitor on it and dropping resistor. I don't know if I can, yeah, it's underneath here. I probably can't show it, but on a real tiny board to drive these LEDs, so that's what I'm doing there. And that works pretty nice. So all the parts that needed, I put in 4 transistors, 16 electrolytic capacitors, 2 diodes, 9 resistors, the bulb, the light circuit, a little tweak to the demodulator decoder here, or the multiplex decoder. I also tweaked up the IF a little bit. It's about as good as it's going to be. Sprayed the knobs, cleaned the face plate. I oiled the cabinet, which I'll put it together at the end here, show it complete. So that's the restore. Power test time, but you've been waiting for, or at least some of you. Okay, it is a stereo, so we do both channels driven into our 8 ohm resistors. Got the scope set up here with the music player, and we just bring her up. Let me adjust this. We can see what's going on there. Well, that's weird. Look at the top of the waveform. Let me adjust that. Bouncing around. Shouldn't be doing that. It's not steady. I don't think it's flat top. I think we have a, maybe one of those caps are bad. It's just flat topping on the top rail too early, and it's really bouncing around. It's like bouncing around with the power supply waveform. Turn that down. This thing's getting hot. Yes, we do have a problem here. This thing still has an issue. I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. I should mention I did rebias this thing. A small amp like this runs at around 25 milliamps is fine. Some people would think, well, run it hot or run it more like Class A. Well, no, you don't want to do that. There's something called GM doubling that can actually make the distortion worse. So it's either Class A or with a small amount of bias. But that wouldn't affect the problem here. If you watch my videos, I had an amplifier, one of my home built ones, where it had one of those diode bridges all in one unit. One of the diodes was open, so the positive rail was getting half wave, so it was doing the same thing. It was flat topping on the positive side of the waveform too early. So it could be a diode, or it could be a bad capacitor, I think. So, well, I got some more snooping to do to see what's going on here. I hooked my scope up to the B+ terminal. It's kind of convenient. They give you test points. They give you a B+ and B- terminal. And look at that. It's a let's turn that up a bit. A little bit of noise probably throwing it off. It's 120 hertz. Let me turn the music player on. The ripple you see is probably the 1 kilohertz tone. Let's see here. Turn that down a bit. Don't want to overheat my resistors. And yep. It's not the diodes, because that's 120 hertz. If we were missing one of the diodes, it'd be 60 hertz. Let me check the bottom rail. And I'm going to set a point here. Okay, we're getting about 224 or so, 220 millivolts of ripple. Well, that's RMS, but I'll just use that. Okay, I've switched to the negative rail, and that ripple is very much smaller. 43. Turn on the amplifier. It jumps up a little, but not nearly as much. Even with the amplifier going here, it's under 100 millivolts of ripple. Well, I guess that is an argument for the capacitor replacers. I think the positive rail cap is weak on this thing. Yeah, not done yet. Gotta pull another cap and see if I can replace it with something. I don't know if I have anything. Okay, caps are out. This one looks good in spec. This one doesn't look too good. That's not glue either. That's kind of yeah, it's wet. Let's see what it measures. Well, this one reads about, well, it's changing. 629 microfarads. Well, that one guy in my comment section, he said, I'd replace the gray ones because they leak. Well, you are correct in this case. This one is bad. And I guess it's good that our test routed it out as well. Now I gotta go find a capacitor that will fit. I don't know if I have any. Well, I'm digging around here. Lead spacing on these are wrong. I think they're monsters. But these little guys, well, they're not little. They're 10,000 microfarad. The lead spacing is perfect. They are shorter, but fatter. But they fit in that space. Because there's a little ring on the circuit board and it fits in that space. If I have to buy a capacitor, I'm going to spend another... Radio Shack wouldn't have anything. They're too expensive. Parts Express, I think that'd be like $7 in tax for... I'm just going to use these. The capacitance is very high. It'll be about double, but I think we're okay. Now, if you can go higher. It just stresses the diodes, power supply diodes, more because there's a larger peak to charge these things. But I think we'll be okay. And they're in spec too, about 9.5 millifarads. I didn't know this meter measured that high. And the more I use this meter, the more I like it. It just impresses me for the $26 that I spent on it. Okay, cleaned up the board and put the new caps in. I changed this one here on the phono preamp for the heck of it. This one tested good though. So we have 19 capacitors changed in this thing. Okay, power test time. 8 ohm loads, both channels driven. Before clipping, of course. Set it to mono. Balance centered. Turn the music player on. Oh, look at that. Perfectly symmetrical clipping. That's what we needed. Well, let's tune that spikes out, harmonics out, and get a measurement. 13.0 volts. And, well, I gotta go find a calculator. Okay, it was just buried over there. So we hit 13 squared divided by 8 ohms. 21.125. 21 watts. That is pretty good. It's got a little headroom to it. Now somebody might say, well, you put the larger caps in. Well, no, that would make a little difference. That might give me an extra watt. But in previous testing where I made a video about how supply filtering cap size affects your output power, once you get above 2200 per channel, it starts, the benefit starts flattening off. So still, we would have gotten around 20 watts. Of course, my AC in the house is running, which might pull the voltage down a bit. I'm going to turn that off and see if it makes a difference. Okay, central AC is off because the big condenser unit outside pulls the voltage down. And 13.3. It did go up a little bit. 13.3. squared divided by 8. Now we got 22 watts of output. And not a bad little receiver. It actually has some headroom. My Sansui 221, if I remember, it's rated around 10 watts, and I was getting roughly that. So that really didn't have any headroom, but this one has some headroom. Okay, let's check out 4 ohm loads. Okay, I have 4 ohm loads connected. This amp will handle 4 ohm loads. It says it can handle 8 ohm loads at each speaker, and it can handle 2 pairs. So let's see what it does here. Here's our clipping again. Turn out the distortion. .8 volts. .8 squared divided by 4. 29 watts. Okay, very good. When I did 4 ohms on the Sansui, I got about the same power. I guess it was around 10 watts. So it really sagged under load. This one does what I like to see. It gives you a significant amount more power. Very good. It's a really nicely built receiver for its class.
In a world of persecution that is burning its greed.
Well, I thought it was appropriate to close that out with a Radio Shack turntable. Nothing fancy. It's what 99, $100 would get you back in 1986. That's when I bought it. 30 years ago. It's a lot better than that Crosley piece of junk. $99, plastic platter, crappy tone arm, piece of junk. Yeah, it's a lot better than that Crosley crap. Some of you might know who I'm imitating there. Real counterweight, anti-skate. Yeah, it's a pretty decent turntable. But anyway, here is the receiver all buttoned up. Looks really nice. Has that classic vintage silver face 70s look. Put some Formby's lemon oil on the veneer cabinet. It's not that vinyl crap, it's wood veneer on this thing. And that should do it for this. Nice little receiver, rated 16 watts and gives you 22 and 29 into 4 ohm loads. Can't beat that. For being a lower type range receiver. Well, I appreciate you sticking with me through the restoration of this receiver. Thanks for watching.